So we are on YouTube already. Hi, Giovanna.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Meredith. Welcome. We'll give folks another few minutes, you guys, before we get started. So thanks for being here this evening. Welcome, Dinesh.
Hey, good evening. How
Good
are you?
evening. I love your background picture. Were you actually there?
I always wanted to go to the base camp of that's the Annapurna. I got within about, I don't know, 50 miles, 60 miles of it. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
We're just giving folks another couple minutes to join, but welcome everyone. Glad that you're here. We'll get started in maybe a couple more minutes. If there's any questions in the meantime, let me know. Hi, Rainey. Hi, Emily. Hi, Julie. Hi, Sue. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hello, Linda.
Hello, hello. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura. And Giovanna's here. Thank you.
We're all here. And we are already streaming live on YouTube. It's working this week. Yay. Okay, well, I think what I'll do is just go ahead and start with a couple of announcements. So I just wanted to let you all be aware that we will have a virtually visiting teacher, Venerable George Chernoff, who will be coming to us virtually in December. So he will be teaching on 2 Sundays in December, on Sunday, December 5th, and then again on the 12th. And on those 2 Sundays, he'll be teaching on thought transformation and how to be happy, even in samsara. And in addition to those 2 Sundays, he will also be teaching on 3 Wednesdays in December. So that'll be Wednesday, December 1st, 8th, and 15th. And that's all about how to develop and practice bodhicitta. And he'll be using a Lamrim text that Geshe Gelik has been teaching on his Wednesday night classes. But all are welcome to come. And then I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to this Saturday. Geshe Sangpo will be leading us in a circumambulation practice around the stupa and as well as I think the entire building and the big large Buddha statue that's on the grounds as well. So join us for that at 10 on this Saturday, the 27th. And this is class 3 of 5. We're flying by. I feel like time just doesn't stop. And I guess I'll go ahead and turn it over to Robbie now.
Okay, thank you, Linda, and good evening, everyone. Here we are in our third class of 5 in the Discovering Buddhism module, taking refuge in the 3 jewels. So we'll begin with our prayers. Linda, if you can bring those up, and if everybody can mute yourself but say them along with me, we'll do those in English. The first one being refuge in bodhicitta, refuge being the subject of this module, which we'll recite 3 times. Then we'll do the 4 immeasurables, and then we'll do a mandala offering. And it's traditional to place our thumbs together with our right hand and left hand touching at the level of our heart, representing the union of wisdom, which in Buddhism refers to a direct perception of reality, with compassion, the wish that everyone be free of suffering. Those are the 2 qualities of a Buddha that are sometimes referred to as 2 wings of enlightenment. So we'll begin with taking refuge. As we've talked about before, refuge is a move. It's not a one-time event. We may go through the refuge ceremony, but taking refuge is an ongoing mental process where we move in the direction that we wish to go, towards a safe and sound direction. So we're continually taking refuge. It's not a one and done sort of event. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. The Supreme Assembly, also referred to as the Sangha. Those are the 3 jewels. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And now we have the 4 immeasurable wishes or aspirations, immeasurable in that they encompass everyone, without exception. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. Now we make a mandala offering. And what we're doing is visualizing, which just means to imagine that we're offering all the wonderful things in the universe to all sentient beings. It's the mental practice of generosity, which is considered one of the perfections. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun, and the moon. I offer this as a Buddha field and offer it. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. So now we'll begin our first meditation session. First thing we do is establish our posture, a posture that is stable, self-supporting, and non-distracting. The idea is not to be a contortionist, but to put our body in a position that opens our energy channels and is self-sustaining. So we start at the top. Actually start with our back. Our back is a little bit straighter than we normally sit. We're not leaning back in the chair. Our head just a couple degrees in front of the vertical, not tilted to one side or the other. Eyes either lightly closed or just very slightly open, not to the degree that you can focus on objects, but you just get a little bit of light stimulating your retina. If you tend to doze off during meditation, try leaving your eyes open just a very slight amount. Our lips are lightly closed, not clenched. Our tongue is on the hard palate behind our upper teeth. Our shoulders are relaxed and down, and a little bit open, or a little bit back, so our chest is opened up to open the energy channels. Our upper arms are away from the sides of our torso. That lets some air flow through there, which again fights drowsiness. And again, we have our right hand and left hand touching, the right hand on top of the left hand, with the thumbs touching slightly below the level of our navel. If we're sitting on a cushion, we sit towards the front third of the cushion. So our pelvis is slightly open and our legs are crossed in a position that we find comfortable. If we're sitting in a chair, we're towards the front of the chair, not leaning back. Our feet flat on the floor, and if we want to use a cushion underneath our feet, that's fine. So take a moment and just check your posture, beginning at the top and working down. Identify any areas of tension or stress or discomfort now so that they don't come up over and over during the meditation. And first thing we do is take 3 deep breaths from the abdomen expanding on the in-breath, pulling our diaphragm down, and then contracting towards our spine on the out-breath. Just 3 slow, deep breaths like that. And now we allow our breathing to return to its normal pattern. Following up on our prayers, We again set our motivation for the meditation and the discussion that are to follow. And we generate what's called the Bodhichitta Motivation, the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of others. So that everything we do, from first thing in the morning, getting up, brushing our teeth, taking a shower, going to work, till we lie down at night to get some rest, we think, I am doing this so I can become enlightened, so I can benefit others. And we think, I am doing this meditation so that I can become enlightened, so that I can benefit others. And that may not seem very natural or easy to think that way, but that's okay. Just practice it a little bit. And having set our motivation, we now begin the actual meditation. The chosen object of this meditation is the movement of the breath in and out through our nostrils, the physical sensation of air moving in and out. Nothing more, nothing less than that. We place our consciousness, our awareness on that physical sensation. Just directly experiencing it. Mind on the breath, so that the two become almost non-dualistic. There's no separation between the breath and the mind that perceives it. And every time we notice our mind has wandered off, as it almost inevitably will, we gently set the distraction aside and come back to the breath, over and over and over again. We'll do that for the next 7 or 8 minutes. And we can end our meditation with a dedication. We always do a motivation at the beginning and a dedication at the end. We acknowledge that we've done something a little bit out of the ordinary, and that's a good thing. We've worked with our mind and hopefully developed some slight increase in our ability to concentrate, which is a very powerful tool that we use on our path. And we think, may the positive energy that we've created during this meditation not be lost, but may it make an imprint on my mind stream that will grow and ripen in the future in a way that benefits all living beings. And you can relax your concentration. Okay. So we'll begin our discussion, continue our discussion on taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And those are frequently referred to as the three jewels. You'll hear that term used quite a bit if you hang out in Buddhist circles, people talking about the three jewels, and just be confident that they're referring to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And we've talked about refuge as taking a safe and sound direction in our life, moving in a direction that we feel is safe and sound based on our careful analysis. And that's what the word refuge means in Buddhism. Sometimes we think, we hear the word refuge, we may think that we're hiding or going away. And it doesn't imply that at all. It's a very active process. We're not expecting the Buddha, we're not hiding behind the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. We're not expecting them to solve our problems for us because they can't. That's our own responsibility. They can show us the way and help us in the direction that we wish to move. It's as if we're outside in the rain and or a thunderstorm. We don't want to get wet. We don't want to get struck by lightning. So we move towards a safe shelter, one that we've examined in advance and looked at carefully and we know would be a suitable place of refuge. So it's a place that offers us protection. And the protection it offers us is ultimately our own realizations of the Dharma. The Dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A, referring to the teachings of the Buddha. The word actually means that which separates us from suffering or protects us from suffering. So it's our own Dharma realizations that become our true refuge. And initially we're talking about, as we discussed last week, the realizations of the lower scope, which are primarily about avoiding the creation of negative karma. Negative karma being created primarily through actions of body, speech, and mind, or thoughts that are intended, that harm others. Okay, that are, it's said that are motivated by anger, greed, and ignorance. So the first refuge we take on the path is in the teachings of karma, so that we can avoid creating more negative karma that will inevitably cause us to suffer in the future. So that's really the first stage of refuge. It's about avoiding those negative actions. Okay, that's the first step, because that is the way that we end our own suffering, by not harming others with actions of body, speech, and mind. Okay, so we're talking about an understanding of karma, the law of cause and effect, which was the subject of the course of the last module, and then taking refuge in the Dharma, our realizations of the Dharma, which is what we're talking about in this module. As I said, when Lama Atisha went to Tibet, he was known as Lama Karma and Refuge. Those were the two two most important topics in his teachings. They came up over and over. Taking refuge is referred to as entering the gateway into the Buddha's teachings. And again, that's primarily into the teachings of the lesser scope. Then when we develop bodhicitta in the middle and great scope, the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of others, that's said to be the entryway into the Mahayana Path. I'm going to be throwing out a lot of terms tonight, and don't tie yourself in a knot if you're not familiar with them all or if you don't understand them all. But I'd like you to just kind of get them in your ear and get maybe a sense of where they fit into the discussion. So refuge is an entry into the Buddhist path. The teachings on bodhicitta that will come later in discovering Buddhism are an entry into the Mahayana path, which is all about becoming enlightened for the benefit of others. The lesser path, is about ending our own suffering, okay? The next path, the Mahayana path, is about benefiting others. And then it's said that taking empowerments, which is the subject of a module at the end, is the entryway into the tantric path, which are the highly advanced practices that we use to remove the fine, subtle obscurations that are the last stage in our path towards enlightenment. The tantric meditations really polish the work that we've already done and really bring up to a state of perfection so that we ourselves each fulfill our potential to become a Buddha, because each one of us does have that potential. Maybe not in this lifetime, but if we accept the ideas of future lifetimes, in a future lifetime. And that's actually kind of reassuring that this lifetime is not our only chance, because some of us feel like we're getting old quite rapidly and we don't see enlightenment in this lifetime. But if we accept the idea of future lifetimes, then we very much want to have what we refer to as a favorable rebirth, one where we have a mind and body that allow us to continue to practice. And those are referred to as the higher rebirths, of which the most favorable for practice is being reborn as a human being. So we hope that we'll have many rebirths as humans in the future so we can continue to work on our mind and advance on our path. And the primary cause of obtaining a human rebirth is not harming others in this lifetime, okay? And particularly not killing in this lifetime. Those are the causes of having a human rebirth. So this is where our understanding of karma becomes critical. Okay, so that's a little bit about how refuge fits in the entire path. So the first thing we have to address is what are the causes of going for refuge? And we've talked about this a little bit already. And there are two main causes of going for refuge. Actually, sometimes it's said there are three causes. I'm going to touch on three tonight. The first cause is an understanding of what I've just talked about, that we don't want to have a lower rebirth, okay? We want to have a rebirth in which we can continue to practice the Dharma. So sometimes the word fear is used, or dread, okay? A fear or dread, not in a paralyzing way, but in the same way that we fear or dread stepping out in front of a speeding vehicle. We just know the results will not be good. And having a lower rebirth is not a good thing on our path to enlightenment. So the first, and if we don't accept the idea of future lives, we can at least have some fear and dread about the consequences of our negative actions that we will experience in this lifetime. We don't want to continue to suffer, to have problems, to have things be unsatisfactory in this lifetime. So that's the first motivation, the first cause for going refuge. Concern about the future results of our action, not in a paralyzing way, not in a way that freezes us up, but a way that causes us to move. When we're out in the thunderstorm, we know it's a dangerous place and we want to get out of it. It's that kind of fear and dread that leads us to positive actions, actions that have beneficial results. We want to get out of the storm. We want to avoid the kind of sufferings we've had in past lifetimes and in this lifetimes. And that's not selfish. That's a completely valid motivation, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama says. The wish to not suffer is something that's common to all of us. And it's not selfish because the way we avoid our own suffering is by avoiding harming others. Okay, so it's kind of, they're intertwined. If you don't want to suffer, don't hurt others. It's very simple from the Buddhist point of view. If you're tired of having problems, stop causing problems for other people. Okay? So that's the first cause of going for refuge. And as I say, you don't have to accept the idea of future lives, but it certainly makes it more powerful, I think, if we see this as a process continuing over multiple lifetimes in our movement towards this goal of enlightenment. Okay, I think that's everything there. And ultimately, as we continue to practice, we want to avoid not only lower rebirths, but actually the process of being reborn in the upper realms. Okay, even the upper realms are characterized by sufferings. Okay, they're more favorable than the lower realms. And this is not the subject of this class, but we want to get out of the cycle of samsara, of forced rebirth, of being reborn over and over and over again without any control or seemingly as just the pawn of our karma. So the ultimate aspiration is to remove ourselves entirely from this cycle of samsara, of forced rebirth over and over again. Because we realize that the happiness and pleasures of the upper realms are just temporary and ultimately unsatisfactory. So we ultimately seek liberation from all cyclic existence, which doesn't mean we go out of existence, okay? It means we continue to exist, but we're not in this cycle, this uncontrolled cycle of being born, growing old, dying, being born, growing old, and dying. Okay, we want to get out of that cycle completely. And, but again, that does not mean that we no longer cease to exist. The second cause for taking refuge is what we talked about before as faith or confidence or conviction, not blind faith, but an informed faith. It's a sense of confidence that the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the three jewels, have the ability to show us how to get out of cyclic existence, of how to avoid lower rebirths, and of how to get out of cyclic existence completely. Okay, so it's conviction or confidence based on examining them closely, using our natural intellect, our ability to reason, to judge something against our own experience, so that we have confidence in the thunderstorm that if we go into that building, we'll be safe. We have confidence if we go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, they will show us the way out of cyclic existence. They're not going to do it for us. They're not gods who can do it for us, but they can show us the way. They can teach us if we're open to it. Okay, if we're not open to it, we don't even hear the teachings. But if our mind is open and we've created the merit to hear the teachings, they can show us the way. That's what a Buddha does. A Buddha teaches. Okay, a Buddha doesn't remove your negative karma or lift you up to the state of enlightenment. You have to do the hard work yourself. And then if we're practicing Buddha in the Mahayana, Buddhism in the Mahayana tradition, as we are as Tibetan Buddhists, Zen Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, some of the other types are also Mahayana, where we go beyond the wish for personal liberation, but we also develop this bodhicitta idea that we're talking about. The third cause of going for refuge is we are concerned not only about our own suffering, but we have compassion for all sentient beings. And then it said we take Mahayana refuge, which means we're going because we know they can show us how to help others also. So that's a greater kind of refuge that you find in the Mahayana traditions. It's not so emphasized in the Hinayana traditions, which are the Buddhism of Southeastern Asia, which are more about, and again, I'm just generalizing, I'm not an expert on this, more about personal liberation. But Kadampa Center practices in the Tibetan tradition, which means you don't have to accept it. You can be a Hinayanist and come to Kadampa Center all you want, but there is that extra movement of wanting to, of taking refuge so that you can be of greater benefit to others. Okay, so those are the causes of going for refuge. Traditionally, there are two, but in the Mahayana tradition, we add that third cause of going for refuge. Fear or dread or whatever, or, I refer to it as the informed knowledge of the consequences of our actions. Confidence or faith in the three jewels. And then on top of that, the Mahayana wish. So you can say there are three causes of going for refuge in the type of Buddhism we practice. Then what are we taking refuge in? We're going to start that discussion tonight. We're taking refuge in the Buddha, or as it's sometimes referred to, the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel. And there are two aspects of each jewel. Sometimes they're referred to as outer and inner, outer refuge and inner refuge. And a more accurate way of describing those two aspects would be conventional and ultimate. There's the conventional Buddha jewel and the ultimate Buddha jewel. The conventional Dharma jewel, the ultimate Dharma jewel. The conventional Sangha jewel and the ultimate Sangha jewel. So I'm going to start talking about those. I don't think I'll get all the way through this tonight, but we'll begin this discussion. I'm going to talk about the Buddha jewel first. And I'm going to use some terms that some of you may have heard at Kadampa Center. I'm not qualified to talk about these terms in any great detail, but I'd like you to just start to become familiar with them. They're not the core material in this course, but I think they're interesting. And they come up at times in teaching, occasionally in Geshe Gelug's teachings and some of the visiting teachers. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama, if you ever listen to him, he'll use some of these terms. Okay, we'll start with the Buddha. He is someone who has purified his mind of all defilements, all negative qualities, and has also completely developed all his good qualities. So he has the negative qualities of mind, what we think of as anger, greed, pride, arrogance, have been completely removed from his or her mind. Okay, they are no longer there, and it is impossible for them to arise, even for a second, because the causes of those negative mind states have been completely purified. Okay, the negative mind states the defilements, which are not part of the ultimate nature of the mind, have been completely removed and will never recur. It said that's what we refer to as a cessation. When you get to the point that anger can no longer arise in your mind stream. And that's one of the few things in the cosmos, according to Buddhists, that is permanent. And by permanent, they mean unchanging. Okay, that cessation of a negative mind state, the cessation of anger in the mind of an enlightened being is a permanent condition. And on the other hand, the qualities of compassion, the wish that all beings, not excluding anyone, be free of suffering, is completely developed. Okay, so that's what the mind of enlightenment is, the mind of a Buddha. That's what defines the Buddha. And it's a possibility for each one of us. It's a possibility for any living being that has a consciousness, or all living beings with consciousness have the potential to become Buddhas. Okay, some of us have made more progress on the path than others, but the smallest cockroach or ant has a consciousness that can become enlightened. Probably more difficult as an ant than as a human being, but it is still a possibility. It's a potential. And that's, you hear the term Buddha nature thrown around a lot, and it's defined in lots of ways. But I think that's probably the most practical way for us to think of what Buddha nature is. It's a potential in our mind to become enlightened. It's not like we actually have a little Buddha somewhere in our mind and there's already enlightenment, but it's a potential to move in that direction and become enlightened if we create the causes. Okay. There's nothing, really mystical or magical about this. It's just if you want to become something, you create the causes. If you want to become a concert pianist, you practice your exercises. Okay, and you practice your scales, and then you start with your etudes and everything, and that's how you move. If you want to become a Buddha, you practice lessening the negative, accentuating the positive in the mind, and that's the path to become a Buddha. So when we talk about the Buddha jewel, a word that you'll hear used is kaya, Kaya. Okay, and that's officially translated as body. So we talk about kayas of the Buddha, but we're not talking about physical bodies. We're really talking about a body of qualities or characteristics or abilities of a Buddha. And there are various kayas that an enlightened being possesses. And according to some ways it's broken down, there are 2 kayas. Another way there are 3 kayas. Another way there are 4 kayas. Okay, always list, always numbers. I'm going to mention 4 kayas, and these are long, complicated words. I think you can just listen to them. They're easy to look up if you're interested in finding how they're actually spelled. So we're going to talk about the kayas or bodies of the Buddha jewel. If we want to divide the Buddha into 2 kayas, there's what we refer to as the Rupakaya, R-U-P-A, the Rupakaya, which is translated as the form body. And then there's the Dharmakaya, the word we're familiar with, Dharma body, which is commonly referred to as the truth body. Okay? The Rupakaya, or form body, refers to the physical manifestation of the Buddha. Okay? The Dharmakaya refers to the mind of the Buddha. So the Buddha has achieved complete mastery over his mind, complete compassion, complete wisdom, And that means he has complete mastery, or that means that mind can manifest in multiple forms. Because if we ultimately see that our body is the result of actions of karma, an enlightened being can manifest in countless various forms. Something to think about. I'm not saying you have to accept this or believe it, but this is the classical teachings in Buddhism. Okay, so we start with the Rupakaya, the form body of the Buddha, his physical manifestation, and that can be divided into two other forms. Okay, the first is the Sambhogakaya, Sambhoga, which is translated as the enjoyment body, which I think is a terrible translation. There's got to be a better one than that, but that's what you always hear. It really gives the wrong connotation. And the other is the Nirmanakaya, Nirmana Kaya. And you can find these on the web easily. And that's translated as the emanation body. And these are just two different physical aspects of an enlightened being, okay? The Sambhogakaya is the physical manifestation of an enlightened mind that appears in what's referred to as the Pure Lands, which is another environmental realm. It's not the earth, where very high practitioners, the bodhisattvas as they're referred to, are receiving very high teachings from the Buddha. And he is said to manifest there in his Sambhogakaya, or emanation body, and is giving these very esoteric teachings, okay? Not the experience most of us had, okay? The other aspect of the Rupakaya, the Nirmanakaya, or the emanation body, refers to the grosser physical manifestation of the enlightened mind, such as Shakyamuni Buddha, who was a human being who lived on the earth 2,500 years ago. Okay, and that is, we haven't, most of us have not created the potential to interact with the Sambhogakaya. So the Buddha, out of his compassion, the enlightened being, manifests in this grosser form that we can interact with. We couldn't interact with the Sambhogakaya, but the Nirmanakaya was more down to our level. Okay, so the historical Buddha that we're talking about was said to be the Sambhogakaya, or emanation body. And there have been countless enlightened beings, countless enlightened Buddhas, but we're following the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, who lived 2,500 years ago. And he appeared in that form out of compassion. He knew we could relate to him in that form, okay? So that's the Rupakaya. The Dharmakaya, or the truth body, is the mind of the enlightened being, and it also has two manifestations. There is the wisdom truth body. Again, don't write these down. The terms for this is the Jnana Dharmakaya, and there's the Jnana Sabhavakaya, which is the nature truth body. So you have the wisdom aspect of the Buddha's mind and the nature's aspect of the Buddha's mind. Okay, the wisdom aspect we're talking about the consciousness of the Buddha, the mind of the Buddha, and the wisdom that it contains. It's complete compassion, okay? The omniscient mind. When we talk about the nature truth body, the nature mind of the Buddha, we're talking about the nature of the Buddha's mind, which is that it's empty of inherent existence. So the mind of an enlightened being at the same time contains all wisdom and compassion and is at the same time empty of inherent existence. Okay, lacks inherent existence. And that's not really the subject of this class, but I'm touching on it just a bit. So the conventional Buddha jewel is the Rupakaya, okay, which for us means the the emanation body, which came in this era as Shakyamuni Buddha 2,500 years ago. That is the conventional Buddha jewel in which we take refuge. The ultimate Buddha jewel is the Dharmakaya, the mind of the Buddha, and the fact that our mind has those qualities, though to a lesser degree. Okay, we don't have complete wisdom. We have some wisdom. We don't have complete compassion, but we have some compassion. And our mind also is empty of inherent existence, but we don't perceive it that way. But in some way, our mind is similar to the mind of an enlightened being. And that's what ultimate refuge in the Buddha jewel is, taking refuge in those qualities of our own mind that we're developing in a way that becomes similar to that of an enlightened being. Okay? The conventional refuge is the historical figure, a Shakyamuni Buddha, the form body manifestation of enlightened mind. The ultimate refuge is the nature of the Buddha's mind and the nature of our own mind. Okay? And I think we're out of time already. So we've talked, those are some of the qualities of the Buddha that we take refuge in. That may not hit with you, some of you at all, and that's okay. But I just wanted to touch on this. Next week, we'll review those briefly. We'll talk about the Dharma jewel and the Sangha jewel, which are much less complicated, I promise you, a lot simpler. And we'll talk about some of the benefits of going for refuge. Last week, we'll talk about the actual refuge ceremony and what it means. And I know we had one question from, who was that from?
Is it Laura?
Yeah, okay. And I've got the question. I'm going to set that aside, and I will touch on that in the last class because it's related to the 35 Buddhas, and I think it'll kick in with talking about the refuge ceremony. So that, what is it, Jen Psaki says, I'm going to circle around to that or something. Then she has some phrase that she says when she doesn't want to answer a question, I think. So we'll circle around to that in class 5. Were there any other questions, Linda?
No, but Laura, did you want to say something? I saw you unmute.
No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you very much, Robbie.
Okay, we will get to it. I'm not ignoring it. Okay, so homework for the week, continue the readings. Sit in meditation 6 days again for 10 minutes. Begin with a simple breathing meditation. And then I'd just like you to think about, in your meditation, do a little bit of analytic meditation about the mind of an enlightened being. I mean, it's not something that we have any direct experience of or that we can describe precisely, but just think about wisdom and compassion. What are those two mental experiences like? How do they show up in your own mind? Where are they lacking? how do I resemble an enlightened being? How do I not resemble an enlightened being? So just think along those lines. Think about wisdom and compassion as mental qualities that we can develop. And let's do a brief dedication. Just sit quietly and acknowledge that we've done something positive by coming together this evening. And may that make a positive mental imprint in our mind stream that ripens in the future in a way that benefits all sentient beings. Okay, and everyone stay healthy and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Rejoicing is a very positive quality in Buddhism. It's something that said lots of times in this hectic world we forget to do when we get a little bit overwhelmed by all we have to do. But rejoicing is something that's very important to bring to mind. So this is a good opportunity to do that. And we'll start back next week talking about the Dharma and the Sangha as objects of refuge.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Robbie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving,
Bye, Sue.
everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
Yeah.
Linda.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
Bye. Happy Thanksgiving. See you next week.
Okay. Thank you, Linda.